my hope is that women and girls and marginalized folks just feel safer having tools that they can use to adequately protect themselves, that are designed to protect themselves, and potentially deter something from happening altogether with the alarm.
Yeah, so you have an interesting business that is called Protection Avenue. And can you talk about what items you sell and what
Yes.
inspired you to start that?
I can. So Protection Avenue is actually a real street here in Plattsburgh where I live. And it's sort of a dark alley. So I figured, what better thing to call my business, which is about self-defense and protecting yourself, than naming it after Protection Avenue. So that's what I did. And what I do is I make and sell safety keychains. So this is one. There's a bunch of different styles, but essentially each one has a handmade wristlet, a kubotan, which is a self-defense tool, and a window breaker. You have one of these gadgets, which has a really bright flashlight on it. And then if you pull the pin like this, it's a 130 decibel alarm. And a cute pom-pom. Various uses. I like to let people decide what they think is the best use. But I started this business because partially because I'm a domestic violence survivor, but also just as a woman. And Rena, I see your pronouns there, she, her. So I'm sure you have many experiences that you can think of where you've been in situations where you could have been safer, or you felt uncomfortable and you didn't feel confident that you had the tools that you needed to protect yourself if you needed to. And so as women, we're always told, walk with our keys in between our fingers, and always to change the things that we're doing to stay safe rather than just living in a safer world. So the whole idea behind these keychains is that it gives you tools that are at your fingertips, literally on your wrist, much more effective than keys between your fingers. And my hope is that women and girls and marginalized folks just feel safer having tools that they can use to adequately protect themselves, that are designed to protect themselves, and potentially deter something from happening altogether with the alarm.
I feel like this is a really good time to bring up that meme about the bear and the man in the woods.
Yeah.
Do you know about that, Rena?
No, I don't know about that.
I can try to remember it exactly unless you know it super well, Giovanna.
Go ahead.
So essentially the question is, a woman asks a man, I think, please stop me if I'm getting this wrong. A woman asks a man, would you rather be stuck in the woods with a bear alone or with a strange man alone? And men go, a man. And women go, a bear. And then there's this argument between men and women, like, what? Why would you want to be with a bear? And the women, and they just can't get that because men are fucking scarier.
Yeah, the bear. I feel like I could reason with the bear.
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah,
right.
And it made me go, wait a minute though. Why would you? And I took a while to figure it out. I don't have that fear, so that's why it makes no sense to me. And I happen to be afraid of bears, but yeah, and it's like something that men have to get the fuck over, that there's a reason why you don't understand and they do, and it's okay that you're fucking wrong. and they have a reason. It's not just because you don't understand it doesn't mean you're right.
Right. Yep. Well, thank you for being a man and using your voice to say that.
Yeah, no problem.
I appreciate that.
as soon as you pulled out that set and I looked at your website and I was like, oh, like, this is great. I was like, this is brilliant. And then I'm instantly wanting to know, how do I strategically use that sharp pointy thing Like, because I look at things like that and I'm like, I want to know in a pinch, somebody comes
Yeah.
at me. I want to know how to use these things.
Yeah, no, so that's a great question. And the first thing that I always tell people is this does not help you at the bottom of your bag. So it needs to be on your wrist, right? The second thing I tell people is when if you are in a situation where say someone grabs you, you're getting attacked, or your adrenaline is up, right? What happens in your brain is fight, flight, or freeze. So
Mhm.
when your brain goes into fight, flight, or freeze, your brain is literally shutting down to its most basic instinct. And what that is survival. So whatever that is, fight, flight, or freeze, your body, your brain is saying we need to do this to keep ourselves safe. And most often it is freeze, or most often it's freeze, flight, and then fight. So when you are in fight, flight, or freeze, that is not the time that your brain is capable to learn a new skill. Meaning that's not the time to figure out how to use this, right?
Mhm.
So you need to be comfortable with the tools on your keychain before that happens. So I always say you should be holding it. You should, you can, I have my little tab in the alarm, so it won't sound right now, but um, when you pull it out like this, once the tab's out, 130 decibels, you don't need to wait till somebody's on top of you to make noise and draw attention, right? It's a very loud alarm, like a siren. People notice sirens and alarms, right? Much more than a woman yelling help. So there's that to potentially stop something from happening altogether. Again, be familiar with it. You know where it is. You know how to activate it. You're not fumbling with it. So same with your kubotan. You can hold it in whatever grip you feel most comfortable in. I feel this is the grip that gives you the most power. And same if you need to break a window, because it is a window breaker. So this is going to give you the most power with the least effort. And you can, you look away, break the window. So ultimately, whatever is going to be most comfortable for you, in whatever feels the most natural for you, this grip will give you the most power. But ultimately, you're the one who's got to use it. So whatever you're going to feel the most comfortable with.
Is there a special place? I assume you're kind of talking about car windows, I guess. Or is it mostly that, or is it any window?
It would break any window. I mean, unless it's, I don't know if it would
Yeah,
break like bulletproof glass, but
right.
like any regular window, it would break. So
And
car window.
there's different consequences to different windows. Like a car window's designed to shatter into little pieces. That's why
Right.
you look away. If you were going to do like a regular window, you might want to make sure your hand gets the hell out of there
Yes.
because it'll turn to
Retract.
sheet. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. And the whole thing with the point on these being what it is, it doesn't need a ton of force.
Hmm.
So you don't, it should be a pretty quick motion,
Yeah.
breaking it and pulling your hand back.
Yeah, wow. Now, is there any danger? I mean, not that it matters if you're in the situation. I'm just curious. What's the, I guess it would be state to state, but what are the consequences for like using it against someone if they were attacking you? Like,
That
I hope none, but
right. So that's a loaded question. So that definitely does vary state to state. It varies judge to judge. It varies county to
yeah,
county. So should there be a consequence for you defending yourself?
no.
No. Are they legal in all 50 states? Yes. So they are legal. Common sense, right? Like I do not condone violence. They're not to start fights. They're not to hurt people, right? They're to protect yourself.
Yeah.
Common sense areas that a kubotan isn't allowed. It's not TSA friendly. So you got to either leave it home or put it in your checked bag. Concert venues, theme parks, anywhere where you can't, where they check your bags and you can't bring in stuff like that. They won't let you bring it in. But they are legal. So yeah, as far as I, I'd like to, I can't answer that question because
Right.
there's too many variables.
Seems like the most important thing is don't worry about
Yeah,
it because the most important
right,
thing is to get to the trial where you can defend yourself that way. Because
right,
yeah,
right. That's another thing that I always say is if you're in a position where you have to use that to protect yourself, the person attacking you certainly doesn't care about you or what
Yeah.
happens to you. So you need to do what you need to do to protect yourself.
I used to have, so I used to live in a neighborhood that was technically the hood, like you could describe it as such. And I was always talking to people, like to a lot of the men of like, how do I defend myself? Like if somebody comes at me, because it was also in DC, it's the city, so you could be walking anywhere. And I was like, and they were always telling you like things obviously that probably would not be legal, but I'm like, if somebody is like trying to kill me or assault me or whatever, I'm like, you're like, I don't care. I'm gonna and the advice that I got from a lot of those guys was like hit them somewhere soft and then get the hell out of there. And I was
Yeah.
like, that makes sense. That seems like because they're like you've got to stun them at least or incapacitate something if somebody's coming at you to that degree.
Yes.
You have to give yourself time to get away was the
Yeah.
thinking.
Yeah, that's absolutely true. And that's I also really highly recommend that everyone take self-defense classes. Like personally, I really like jujitsu. And the whole thing with jujitsu is distance, right? So you don't want to stand there and fight and have it take longer than it needs. The goal is to get away. So whatever you need to do to be able to get away from that person and create distance is the goal.
Now, someone out there is saying, well, why don't you just carry a gun? I mean,
Yeah.
like, well, it's true.
How many people would
It
we
is
have to
true.
shoot as we're walking around? Like if you
Yeah.
No, I know. I'm just, I think it's worth it. It's worth the conversation because I guarantee you there's people that would be like, why don't you just carry a gun?
There's people that say that to me all the time because
Yeah.
I'll do like markets and stuff where
Yeah.
I have my setup and so I got a gun. What do I need that for? And I'm like, well, we don't need to shoot everybody.
Yeah.
that's
that's
overkill. Most
yeah, that's
of the
what would
time.
happen.
You know
Yeah, and
what I mean?
also I guess you have to be willing to be one of those people that have it on your hip too, because you're not going to
Right.
carry it every time you go to the car.
Mhm.
Right.
I guess.
So you're packing every time you leave the house. It
Yeah.
just seems a bit excessive to I don't think to me that doesn't seem like a safer world where everyone's just carrying guns just because.
Yeah.
I think guns have their place and their whatever, but I don't think it's necessary for day-to-day ordinary people to just be carrying guns. And because the thing is, I think people that carry guns want an opportunity to shoot somebody, and that's counterproductive, that's counterintuitive to
It does seem
returning
like that
population.
sometimes.
Yeah.
It seems like they're a
Yeah.
little raring to go.
Yeah, it's been my experience anyway.
Yeah, I don't know what that
Yeah.
is. Like,
Oh.
I don't get that. It seems like it would be a much more horrifying experience than they might think. Hopefully, anyway. Hopefully they wouldn't have enjoyed it, but
Right. I would hope not. Yeah.
yeah. Yeah. Wow. So being a heterosexual male, and whatever happened to me as in my childhood, I'm petrified of women. I always think women are going to think that I mean bad, I mean harm. So I always overcompensate. Like just yesterday, I was taking the garbage out and I happened to come out at the exact same time as my neighbor. And she's like, I don't know how to explain it, but she's much smaller than me. And I've been here 2 years and I've met her twice. That's how social we all are. Um, and I went by her just as she was locking the door, and I said, like, for some reason, hey, which is not how I talk. Okay, so I'm all now my mind's going, gee, what did I just say that for? That was really fucking weird. She thinks I'm one of those people that are like, yo, what's up? So I went up to the elevator, and she comes over. And I see she's keeping her distance from me. Now, I know that I'm probably overthinking it, but I was just like, forgot my wallet, and I left because I didn't want to get on the elevator with her because I didn't want her to feel uncomfortable. Am I crazy?
That was so nice of you. Oh my gosh.
Seriously? Like, that's
No,
okay?
yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
I thought I had an issue.
She probably didn't want to
No.
be in the elevator by
Yeah.
herself with you.
I guess
Yeah.
so. I mean, that's,
She probably was uncomfortable, and
I think of
I
that
think you
shit
did the right thing.
all the
Yeah.
time. I think of that stuff all. I walked down the street the other day, and this woman came right in front of me out of the bagel place, and she was like this far away, and I was like, all right, I'm gonna go across the street, because now felt like I was stalking her, and I wasn't. I went across the street, went all the way down to the Five Corners, and went across the way, and I ended up. Yeah. Oh, the weirdest thing about the woman in the elevator, though. So I decided to go down the stairs instead, which
And
means
then you ran
so
into her.
I went down the stairs, and I was crossing the street, and there was her car pulling up, and she stopped
Oh,
for me
no.
to cross the street. I'm like, oh Jesus, it's like a fucking suspense movie now.
That's great. She's like, this guy.
Yeah.
And you were like, I was trying to
I
avoid
was
you.
really trying to help you, but now I feel like I'm just a problem.
That's really
I'm
funny.
that guy.
Well, you can't win them all.
All right, so that's okay to do. It's not
Yeah.
obsessively ridiculous or anything.
No, I would appreciate that, honestly.
All right.
And actually, you do bring up a really good point, and like the ways in which men that are not dangerous is particularly like I was watching a comedy with a black comedian, and like was talking about how he will go out of the like cross the street and everything to get as far away from white women, like
saw
because like
this
what you're
one.
yeah, like what you're saying, Jayson, because they're like,
Yeah.
I'm not a danger and I don't even want to be perceived, because so many just people in general, so many men are
Yeah.
dangerous. And so they're like, I've got to get the hell out of here so that it's very, very obvious that I'm not near this woman or
Right.
perceived in any way as a danger.
Yeah.
I appreciate that. Like, more men should do that.
Because then you're like, okay, I see you making that effort. Like you're not a you're not a danger. Now I can tell that you're.
Now
you're
I have to speak for the Ben that will be listening to this maybe and say, so I can't walk down the fucking street wherever I fucking go.
No, just don't be like lurky. Like I've been followed a lot. Like just like don't follow. Like try to make eye contact and convey that like I'm trying to grab you and put you in a trunk and chop you up into little pieces.
Right.
It's just
Right.
Just be aware that the women that you encounter while you're walking are aware of you and are fearful of you because they do not know. They don't know you. They don't know what your intentions are. And if you are going to try to assault them. And so the women are all on high alert, and just be aware of, you can walk wherever you want, but being aware of how the women around you are feeling because of your presence,
Right.
I think is what we're asking.
That's a good way to put it. Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, that makes sense. And also I think the bigger issue is above all of it is it's something that we need to address so that we can all start relaxing. I mean, it's a long ways away from that, obviously, but denying that its existence, like a lot of men did with the bear and man meme, is not helpful.
No.
At all.
At all. And all of the women just shake our heads at them and say, yep, they don't get it and they're still dangerous. Like, you're not proving anything,
Yeah.
Yeah.
God, that's awful. I can't even imagine. I can't even imagine it at all. It's crazy. Like, I don't know what I don't know. I've only felt that way once, and it was in New York City, and I felt afraid of everyone. So maybe it feels like that, I guess.
Potentially. What part of the city were you?
I was right in the main part too, like Fifth Avenue. So it's really ridiculous that I felt that way. But I'm from Vermont. I was there by myself.
There's just too many people. I get that.
Yeah, it was awful. But I got used to it. Yeah, I don't know. I just can't. I can't wrap my head around that fear. Like, 'cause I mean, I live in Vermont. I feel like I can walk any. There's a bad street in Vermont that I feel scared in ever. And that's because I guess because I'm a guy. And so yeah, that's it in a nutshell. Yeah, and
Yeah.
like people and it's also weird because like we were watching some show the other night, me and my friend, and this woman, she got attacked in a stairwell coming out of a hospital on the way to a garage. And I was just like, really there? And that's and like in my head, I'm like, there? And my friend was, she was like, they don't care. It's an opportunity, and it's an animal thing. It's just totally not. You have a rational brain. That's why you're like there, like,
Right.
and it's like, yeah, don't think that you're safe. And if there's an opportunity, it's dangerous, and that's,
Hmm.
I hate being a fear monger about it, but I really have been looking into it, especially because of this interview. I looked into a lot of stuff, and it's a real thing. It's
Yeah.
scary as shit.
You have to be really aware of your surroundings. And what's interesting about, like, when I mentioned that DC neighborhood, it's like statistically and by all other metrics, like one of the most unsafe neighborhoods I've ever lived in. But I felt the safest in that neighborhood because on that block, like, there were always the guys sitting on the block, sitting on the corner, sitting on the stoop, and I knew them all. And like, and so it was like there was somebody always out sitting on the stoop when you're walking around that you knew, that you also knew would hop in. And like, they'd always tell me, oh, if you have a problem, you have a problem. And one time I was like, I don't know what kind of life you all think that I live, but like, I don't need you to be like, I don't need to be putting out hits on people. But I said, you know what? I'll call you, like, if I'm walking or something and somebody tries to assault me, I'll say, help, Riri needs help. And they were
Yeah.
like, you know what? We need a code word so they don't know
Oh,
we're coming. And I was like, but that was the safest,
that's
the
so
safest
sweet.
place, because there's always somebody out on the block
What
that I
would the
knew.
what would the code word be that you would say when you're in trouble that wouldn't be suspicious?
I don't remember if we actually ever came up with a code
I was
word,
like,
because luckily,
everything bagel.
yeah,
What? That might deter them. Like, what?
What?
It's totally insane.
but it was so wild because now, like, where I live in LA, I can walk around and it's like, and it's a West Hollywood that's not an unsafe neighborhood, but like, you just get random men like out of
Yeah.
nowhere that just will follow you, like walking the dog in the
Oh,
park
yeah.
or whatever. And it just will happen. You don't know when it's going to happen, where it's going to happen, what time of day.
Hmm.
And I just like think I felt so much safer in that neighborhood, which
Yeah.
is by any other metric, people would say, what do you mean you felt so much safer in that neighborhood? I'm like, because nobody was
Hmm.
following me out of nowhere.
Yeah.
So would you
You
say
have
that?
that.
Go ahead.
No, you just have that like kind of community support in the neighborhood, and
Yeah.
that's a
Mhm.
thing, That's I get it. Yeah.
Do you think guys that like, all right, like, oh, she has a nice butt, and they follow a little longer than they would? Do you think the girls know the guys are following them way more than the guys think they know?
Yeah.
Like you're super, like you have like a sense of it. It's like
Oh
obvious.
yeah. You
Wow,
definitely
guys
know.
should probably
Yeah.
know that.
Yeah. No, you're not being sneaky. We
Yeah.
are aware.
Wow.
We're
What
very
are some
aware.
of the tells that you've seen, like of like glances or looks or glaring, or what is it called? What's that term? What's the term? Damn it. Oh, what's it called? There's a term. It's one word.
Gawking?
What's it called?
Gawking?
No. No, I'll think of it. Go ahead.
Okay.
What are some tells? Like like
Ah,
I mean, or is it like a feeling? Is it a sense? Like
it's definitely part of it's for sure like instinct. Um,
gaze, male
Mhm.
gaze, male
instinct.
gaze.
It can
Two
be
words.
oh, male gaze, yeah.
Mhm.
I mean, I think I think the biggest thing for me is what my gut tells me,
Hmm.
probably. Because I think, but other than that, it's body language or the way
Hmm.
they look at you or the change of pace in their footsteps or
Hmm.
um the way they're carrying them. It can be, it's mostly like physical things like that
Right.
that are probably different person to person, but it's not normal. And that's, I think, what we pick up on. And that's what when our gut is like, be careful.
Yeah. Actually, I have a little dachshund mix, and he now knows, like, if I'm walking with him at night, he sometimes, if there's a male around, he will walk backwards with his head like behind.
Oh.
And so he
Wow.
will watch, and it's really weird because I didn't train him to do anything, but he just like knows that he's little, and he's like, they can get both of us. Like, so he's just like, I'm looking out.
Yeah.
And I'll go, yeah, that's right, Charlie. That's right. Like, I'm like, okay, you keep watch. Good boy. And he'll bark if somebody is really encroaching, which I thought was so interesting because I'm like, I didn't teach this dog to do that, but he
Yeah.
instinctively, and he doesn't do it all the time. It's just like, I guess he gets a vibe or something, and he
Mhm.
feels like somebody is following, they're a little too close, and he won't take his eyes off of them.
Mhm.
Um,
That's awesome.
Giovanna, do you feel comfortable talking about what your experience was? Or if you don't, it's
Yeah.
fine.
Well, which experience are we referring to?
Your
Like with,
experience your experience with domestic abuse,
yeah.
violence.
Yeah, I can definitely talk about it. And it's crazy because actually that whole relationship was starting right around the time that you and I met.
Oh, okay.
Which is crazy.
Yeah, it's a while ago.
Well, yeah, and I think, yeah, because you might have, hmm. Um, yeah, so domestic violence is, and I talk about it a lot because I think there's so much misunderstanding in our society about domestic violence. So I'm more than happy to talk about it, because I think when people hear domestic violence, they immediately think of like a woman with a black eye, and this really intense physical abuse. And when they don't see that, people are very disbelieving that there's abuse occurring. Um, and so I don't know where you want me to start with this story, or if you have specific like questions you want to ask.
Um, yeah, it's a difficult subject, so it's hard to go, well, tell me about I
Yeah,
mean, you've been asked this before? How do you
yeah.
well, all right. What was your first what was the first tell? What was the first time you thought, "Oh, this is not good"? And was it immediately, "I'm done," or did time go by where you stuck in the
Ooh.
situation for a while? That kind of
Yeah, really good question. I did not realize that I was in an abusive relationship until until I was pregnant for my daughter, which was uh 5 years into the relationship. Mhm.
wow.
Yeah,
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 which is common, but
very
yeah.
common.
Did something happen then and never before, or you just realized it then?
Um, Things did escalate during my pregnancy, which is also very typical in abusive
What?
relationships, but it wasn't any one thing that happened. It's just that's when I realized what was going on. And I think that realization for me happening so late in my situation is due to a few different things. Um, One is, I was 19 years old when I met him. I was my father was terminally ill, so I was dealing with, taking care of him in his last months of life. I had just finished college. I was out in LA. Rena was
Oh,
I was out there. So I had just had to move back here to take care of my father. So I had all these like big things going on in my life. I'm 19. We're all just dumb when we're not, we don't have any kind of real life experience or anything like that. And when I met him, my 19-year-old self like perceived him as just the most amazing guy I had ever met. And I mean, it seemed like he just had his life together. he was amazing. Like he was so nice to me. He'd bring me gifts all the time. He just was like perfect. Fast forward many years, I learned that was a thing called love bombing. That's not a real thing. So that's love bombing, and that's what occurs in the beginning of every abusive relationship is love bombing. So this person's too good to be true. Yep, and that person isn't true. They're pretending to be this person. That's not who they actually are, but they do it long enough to get what they need from you
Wait,
and get you
can
hooked.
it,
Yeah.
is it possible to have that situation and it not be an abusive relationship? Like, because I'm kind of a love bombing kind of guy. I don't know. I mean, wait, it is possible, I should say.
So there's a big difference between being a kind, generous person
Okay.
and intentionally manipulating somebody by pretending to be something that you're not
Okay.
and doting on them just to reel them in
Okay.
to isolate them and trap them.
Thank you. All right.
You're welcome.
Mhm.
Yeah. So that really, with all of those things happening in my life, and then the love bombing, he was able to kind of get me in a position where I was stuck. I was very isolated and financially dependent and really didn't have any options.
Was he older than you?
Very quickly. He was older than me.
Like a lot or just a little?
Not a ton. He
Oh, okay.
was 4 years older than me.
Okay.
Which when you're 19, I mean, that's
Yeah, your brain's not done yet.
no. No.
Right.
And I think another piece of that is just growing up with the family and the parents that I grew up with who were very conservative Catholics, right? And so you have also this upbringing of really being brainwashed your entire childhood into thinking like my role is to be a good girl. Like I'm a good girl and I need to be a good wife and I need to do all of these things and check all of these boxes in order to be a good person. And so there was a lot of early conditioning too that led me to fall for all of that when I met him. Because I think if children are raised to believe in themselves and have autonomy and self-worth and all of those things, not that it can happen to anybody, but I think those kids would have a much better chance at identifying the red flags early on and getting out of it a lot sooner.
Yep.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So what was the kind of things that happened that made you realize it? Like when you say it was gradual,
Mm-hmm.
is it like you said violence? So is it like grabbing or like what?
Yeah. So domestic violence. So yes, there was physical violence involved, but the majority of it was psychological. I call it psychological warfare. And if you speak to any domestic violence survivor, they will say that is the absolute worst part of it.
Mm-hmm.
If you if you Google the domestic violence power and control wheel, um, you will see a wheel that pops up, and this power and control wheel, any domestic violence organization or shelter, when you go in for help, the first thing they're going to do is pull up that wheel and talk to you about what domestic violence actually is. And one of the things that I really like about that visual is it breaks down and demystifies that, domestic violence is a black eye, right? It's so much more than that. So domestic violence is again, it's called the power and control wheel because what domestic violence is about is power and control. It's not necessarily about, it's not just about hurting somebody, it's about exerting power over them and controlling their life. And so that's done, many different ways. I mentioned like the financial abuse. So that's definitely a big component of abuse where either you're not allowed to work, or if you do work, the abuser's controlling all of the finances. They isolate you from friends, family, so they cut off all of your support system. It's the psychological warfare piece of it, the gaslighting, the manipulation. It's the knowing what's coming next. If I do something wrong by my abuser's standards, this is what's in store for me. So it's always the threat of, don't fuck up, because this is what's coming for you.
Right.
And we're human, right? Like, everyone's gonna fuck up. Like, you can't live to these impossible standards. So it's much, much, much more than just physical abuse.
Right.
And physical abuse is bad. I'm not trying to make light of it, but it's so much more than that, and it's so insidious. And in fact, the statistics show that most abusive relationships don't get physically violent until the victim is trying to leave. And that's when the victim is actually in the most danger, is when they're trying to leave the relationship. So it makes it so, and my hope is that helps to answer, because the first thing people say is, well, why didn't she just leave? Right? Why didn't she just leave? Well, a lot of times we don't have an option to leave for many, you're isolated, right? So like I couldn't spend time with friends. I couldn't be 15 minutes late from work coming home. I mean, like, when I tell you isolated, like, I was cut off from my family. That damaged my family relationships to this day. I wasn't allowed to have any sort of social life. So everything was cut off from me. He did control, the finances completely. So I had no support system, and I had no resources, and I had nothing, and I'm trapped. And then when you think about the years and years and years now at this point of just the mental, like, beatings that you're taking, you also feel absolutely worthless. You don't believe in yourself. You don't feel like you deserve better. He's made you think you don't deserve any better. He's made you feel like nobody would want you. He's doing you a favor by keeping you around here, and you'd be lost without him. And it sounds sort of silly when you say it, because it's like, obviously that's not true. But when you've been conditioned like this for so long, it feels incredibly real.
Yeah. And it's gradual. So it's not like one day they just go like insane. It's like, it's gradual. And you were 19. I mean,
yeah.
Yeah. I guarantee at our age, we could go to a 19-year-old and manipulate the crap out of them, because with our experience,
Right.
And I don't know what this person's experience was, but people are built different too. Like, he may just naturally be a manipulative person because he was brought up that way, and got a lot of skills at manipulating, and you were brought up in a way where you should be compliant and obedient, and it kind of is and they pick, and you pick somebody that's an authoritative kind of a figure, and they pick somebody that's not
exactly.
Yeah, I mean, it's a mix, and it happens because you get drawn together, and that's
that's
like,
exactly right.
People that say like, "Oh, I just leave," probably wouldn't be in the relationship with the person. You wouldn't have connected.
Right. Exactly. Because for someone who has a healthy idea of relationships, they would notice those red flags much, much sooner, right? And be able to get out much quicker.
Yeah. Everybody thinks everybody starts at zero and has the exact same experiences, and then they're let into the universe, when everybody starts at a different place from all different directions. So stop telling people, "Why didn't you just do this?" and actually help them.
Exactly. Thank you again. Just help.
It's just ridiculous.
Yeah.
So do you feel like recently there's been better awareness, better conversation around abusive relationships, domestic violence, or do you still feel like we have a really long way to go?
I think we do have a really long way to go. I think think we are having better conversations, but I think they're coming too late too. So a recent, well, I can give you a few recent examples of that is, so another really terrifying statistic, another really terrifying fact when it comes to domestic violence and children. So statistically speaking, if a victim of domestic violence has children with their abuser and the victim makes the decision to leave, obviously you're not going to leave your children in an abusive situation, so the children are coming with you. Over 80% of the time in custody cases involving domestic violence, custody is given to the abuser.
Whoa.
I did not know that statistic.
Yep.
It's because they have
Wow.
control over the finances, probably.
That's a big piece of it. There's a lot that goes into it. It's a massive problem in this country. It actually the real underlying, it's a systemic reason. The systemic reason for that is because our country was actually built on laws where women were property, right? We were owned first by our fathers and then by our husbands, and our children were owned by our husbands. And so even though on paper today the laws may be different, it's still very much underlying that. And I say, listen, good dads should absolutely have, the custody, joint custody or whatever, and ability to see their kids. Not saying anything about good dads. I'm saying dads because the majority of abusers are men. They can be women. It does happen that it's women. I'm saying dads because majority are men. But those underlying ideals that our country was built on are still very present in the family court system. And so that's another thing that victims have to consider when making the decision, or am I going to leave and risk losing my children, or is it worth it for me to stay so I can at least shield them while I'm here? So that's you can't judge for not leaving. But what was I going to say with that? I don't know. It'll come back to me.
So I think it's something that's really important to realize, that because a lot of people, they think of all the different problems we have in our country, and treating people that are minorities, depending on which person you're talking about, as they've had a hard time. Try to remember that, didn't women get the right to vote 100 years after black men? Wasn't it? Isn't it took 100 years more time for women to get the right to vote? So to think that there isn't this still this ownership of women thing that's floating around is ridiculous, because it definitely is in the back of a lot of men's minds that, it's a woman. And even though you want to admit it, it's there. And it's just like there. Everything else. It's systemic. It's completely in our society. And it's there, and you have to fight it. Or even as a man that thinks you're not that person, you have to fight it, because you don't even know it's there in your psyche, but it is.
Right. And I think to your earlier point, Jayson, we're not, I appreciate that you as a man can say these things, because that we're not attacking you, right?
No,
and we're not out here trying to attack all the men. We're just, that's not the goal. We want partnership and allyship and peace, right? And that doesn't happen unless you're able to do what you're doing, and saying, hey, listen, I want to help, and I'm helping by recognizing my role in it, even though I'm not actively hurting somebody.
Right.
Which now cut to all the comments when this video is live, which I think we have had before when we have had these conversations. You just want to attack men.
Yeah. Man, white males have a real hard time right now.
It's so hard.
It's hard losing all that power.
Yeah.
Whatever. Sorry. Wow.
Right, but then it's it's power because you have control over other people.
Yeah, you're
And the
losing.
fear is that they're losing control to
Yeah.
somebody else when really we just want
Yeah.
we want equity, we want to
Yeah.
share, we want peace. And so we're not trying to take over.
Ridiculous.
Yeah.
Mhm.
I wrote an article about red flags, relationship red flags, and to do that, I was interviewing some clinicians, and this didn't make the article because it wasn't part of the topic in the outline that I was given, but I will never forget that one of the clinicians that I was interviewing was saying, yeah, I have some patients that I work with and they are in domestic violence situations, but they can't leave because of the financial issues and the kids. And so this clinician was saying, I just work with them to help them with what I can. So to help them get whatever piece or break or just anything to sort of make the situation a little bit more tolerable or do some self-care things for them. And it was just heartbreaking. I was like, oh, and you could hear the weight in the clinician's voice too, but they're like, I can't tell this person to leave. They can't because
Right.
of the financial and the kid piece. And I was like, oh,
Well,
Yeah.
yeah, it's so true. And on average, it takes a victim 7 tries until they're able to successfully leave the abusive relationship. It took me four attempts, so it's it's not as easy as just walking away. There's so many layers to it. And that's why, like, as a society, we really need to do better, because even the resources that are out there for domestic violence victims, it's not much. It's really not much. And um, our laws are it's very, very difficult to actually hold an abuser accountable within the legal system. It's almost impossible. It's really, really a shame, so, and because it is so insidious, like, 1 in 4 women and 1 in 10 men will experience domestic abuse at some point in their lives, right? So when you think about all the people, how many
Mm.
people do you know right now that are in abusive relationships and you don't even know, right?
Mm. Yeah, because everything on Instagram shows everything's fine in their relationship.
Right. Yeah.
Everybody puts a good face on.
there
Mhm.
are a couple that I know where I'm like, you don't know, but I know, which is like kind of worse because I mean, you can't tell somebody like, this person is
That's a
showing
good.
all
That
of
brings up a
these
good
red
question.
flags.
Can you
You
tell?
can't, but they're not going to listen. Like I've tried. So,
Right.
people have to recognize it for
But how much
themselves.
responsibility should we feel? Like if you know someone's being abused, like
Hmm.
I don't right now. If I did, I think it would be a problem. I think because
Yeah.
I get this weird guilt thing where I feel like I'm not doing anything and then I have to go fucking start something and
Yeah.
it sucks because I've gotten a lot of issues with that kind of stuff because I'm like,
Right.
I'd like to talk to you about something. People don't like it.
People don't like it, but and Rena's right. Like, they need to be ready to hear it.
Mm.
And if they haven't realized, it took me 5 years to realize I was in an abusive relationship. Um, but whether they don't realize it, whether they're in denial. But the other thing is, there's a trauma bond.
Mm.
Rena, I don't know if you came across that in when you were writing, but a trauma bond is a very real thing between a victim and an abuser. Um, and really, it has the same effect on a victim's brain as an addiction.
Mm.
So,
Mhm.
and this is what abusers are so good at. It's the up and down. It's the up and down. So, you try as hard as you can to do all the right things and make this person happy. And you get to see a little tiny glimpse of that person that they showed you they were in the very beginning, right? You see a little tiny glimpse of that, and then they go right back down into punishing you and making you feel worthless, and the degradation and all of that awful stuff. And that will continue on and on and on. And that also, anytime, they're also really good at getting a sense of when you're thinking about leaving, right? Or when you do start to leave, and then all of a sudden they're that person again. I'm so sorry. I don't know what I was thinking. I didn't mean it. I can't believe I hurt you. You know, they'll just be the most like remorseful person, and they can seem so genuine, like truly. And you're like, gosh, maybe he's right, you know. He was just going through something, you know. He sees what he did wrong, he's gonna change. He loves me, you know, whatever. And that, writing that is exhausting, but that's also something that keeps people stuck. And I think, you know, like, yes, they may not be ready to hear it, but I think if you do have the opportunity to just be like, hey, you know, what he did or what she did, I wouldn't really like that if someone did that to me. Just want you to know that I am here for you, you know. And I think you can't put demands on people. Like, you can't say you need to get out of this, because they just may not be ready or may not be able to. But saying like, hey, listen, this doesn't feel right to me, and you know, I support you and I'm here for you. If you know, if you ever need me, I'm here for you. And I've told friends that, and be like, listen, I know you don't see it right now, but I see it. You're in an abusive relationship. If and when you want to leave, I'm here. I got you. No questions asked. You know what I mean? And sometimes that's all you can do, and that does suck.
I've had success with people before, like kind of if they're talking about it, waiting for a window, like where they say, well, what do you think? And I'm like, okay, now you're giving me an opening to tell you that I feel like, and I have said to people before, like, okay, you're asking me, so now I'm going to tell you really what I think, and I think that you're unsafe, and I think that like, and so I've been able to do that successfully, and that is received, but like only after making sure they've opened that door, and then saying like, hey, basically asking them to like, do you consent to my feelings about like
Right.
what I'm observing? Do you
Mhm.
consent to hearing that? And I'm saying, yes, I want to know what you think. And
Yeah.
that tends to go better than like just bringing it up out of the blue or dumping, you know?
Right. It does, because you also don't want them to get defensive and then not talk to you.
Yeah.
Because that doesn't help them either. And then they won't be able, they'll feel like they can't reach out when they need to.
So, if someone were listening to this and they were on, they've never tried to get away out of the relationship, or they're on attempt 3, what kind of advice would you give them to what's the next
Yeah.
step? What should they do that might
Yeah.
actually speed up the process, or come to terms with the fact that they need to actually do this no matter what kind of thing?
Yeah. Well, a few things. The first thing that I always tell people is, you're not crazy. You're not crazy, and the abuse is real. Um, the abuser's not going to change. They're going to make you think they're going to change, but they're not. As hard as it is, and as much as it will hurt at first, like, go no contact. Absolutely go no contact. Do not answer text messages from that person. Do not pick up the phone. Like, resist everything in you, and do not have contact with the abuser. Um, Also, you know, if you do have a support system, whether it's your family, your friends, lean on them, ask for help during that time. Reach out to your local, you know, stop domestic violence organization. They can help you with safety planning. So even if you want to leave, but you're not ready to today, or you're not able to today, you can work with them to create a safety plan, so that when that day comes that you are ready, everything's already in motion. You have a plan in place, and it makes it that much easier, whether that's you know, emergency housing, or you know, temporary shelter, or even if it's, you know, going to your friend's apartment, whatever it is, you know, helping with a restraining order, or, you know, pressing charges, whatever it is, they can help make that plan so that you're not alone, and so that you are supported when the time comes that you are ready to leave. And it's different for everyone, but if you can, try to tuck some money away where the abuser's not going to find it. And I know that's easier
Scary.
said than done. Even if it's just a little bit, I mean, anything helps really. Just try to sneak away what you can, and do what you think is best for you, because no one knows your abuser better than you do, and what they're capable of. So you also have to just trust your gut and like what you feel is the most safe for you.
Wow. Scary.
Yeah.
So maybe we'll put some helpful links in
without a
that,
doubt.
and also probably trigger warning just in
Yeah.
case. But yeah, if you have some helpful organizations or
Yeah.
links,
I can definitely send them over.
yeah, I think that would be good to include.
Yeah, for sure.
Should we switch tones
Yeah,
to
completely.
um,
They're a complete 180.
I'm sorry.
I mean, this was a
Brought
wonderful.
the room down. Sorry.
No, I mean, it's a necessary conversation, and it's always important to
Yeah.
talk about these things and spread awareness.
Lots of
Mhm.
value in this, for sure.
Yeah, I appreciate it.
So you're also an actress.
Mm-hmm.
And although you were in a fabulous film that will someday be finished, I'm more interested in your role in Star Trek, the
Oh my God.
expanded universe, I believe it's called,
Expanded.
right across the lake from me. Isn't that where it is?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is right across
Plattsburgh.
the lake from you. It's in Ticonderoga.
Yeah. Tell Rena what it
Yeah.
is, because she
Yeah,
has no
tell
idea what.
me and everybody else that doesn't know what it is.
Oh my God.
It's pretty amazing for the budget. It's insane.
Yeah. So I think they're calling it something different these days, but it was called Star Trek New Voyages. And if you know anything about Star Trek, the original series of Star Trek ended sort of abruptly, I believe, in the fourth season.
End of third season.
End of third season. There we go. Thanks, Jayson.
I'm a super nerd. Yeah, I'm all over this.
Yeah, so it ended, and it wasn't really supposed to, it was network issues, whatever it was, it ended. And so Star Trek New Voyages is a fan-based web series that is a continuation of the original series that picks up where it ended, so to speak.
And they've had Star Trek stars on it.
We have, yes.
Oh,
Yes.
Interesting. So this picks up like the Shatner version. It picks up.
Yes, exactly.
It's not the Enterprise though, is it?
It is the Enterprise.
Oh, so the characters are. Oh God, why do I not know this?
They're the same, like obviously different actors, but the same
Yeah.
characters that they're.
Yeah.
Oh, interesting.
Because George Takei was on it, I believe.
Yes, George Takei was on it. Yep, and so was Walter Koenig.
Wow, that's so cool.
Yep. Yeah, it
on
was
a
really
nerd
cool.
way, in a nerdy way, it's very cool.
It's super cool. Yeah, and they are both just as you would want them to be. They're so nice, and yeah, they're just amazing. Yeah.
Wow, that's so awesome. And so, what did you get to? What were the things you did on the show?
Oh, what didn't I do on that show? So I first got involved on that show, I think I was 15 years old. So I was in high school, and at first actually I was helping with the sets. So really at first I would go up like on the weekends and I'd help like paint stuff or like put the sets together. So it was like a lot of crew work. And then when it came time for shooting, because Star Trek the original series, there's kind of the main crew, right? And then
the bridge,
and all
the bridge
of those
had to be
folks,
just right.
Yeah, the bridge had to be just right. So we had Kirk and Spock and Chekhov and Sulu and Uhura already, with Bones, and Nurse Rand, and so all those roles were already filled. So I was really more, I filled in. I was one of the only like females on set that wasn't in like one of the, the recurring roles. So I filled in almost every scene. Like in the background, if you watch any of those, I'm like wearing a different color uniform, like all over the place. So I didn't have a speaking role on that series, but I was in a few different episodes and I was there like all the time. So I got to see a lot and do a lot, but I didn't get to act a lot.
Oh my God, that's so fun. I know so many people that have been on that show. And they always talk
Yeah.
about it, how they can't believe how amazing they did with the set.
The sets were beautiful,
Yeah.
absolutely beautiful. Mm-hmm.
So is this something that's still running, or what's the?
Yes and no. So they've turned it into a Star Trek tour. It's no longer a film set, and there were some, my understanding is that NBC said no more. Is my understanding.
I can imagine that.
Yeah. So the sets are all still there, but it's in Ticonderoga, and it's sort of a little museum now, and you can go and get a tour of the Enterprise.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like most of my male friends on Facebook have got some picture of them sitting in that captain's chair.
Yeah. I mean, how do you not?
Yeah. Well, this is what we do in the East Coast. Rena, you live in a place that probably has, and Paramount probably has a version of it that's much bigger there.
Right.
We have to bake our own.
We have to make our own. Yes. But the bridge that we built, which is still there in Ticonderoga, at least at the time, it was the only complete 360 bridge that was built to scale. So the same original specifications. And everything was exactly like the original bridge, with the exception of the little piece of carpet right underneath the captain's chair was ribbed instead of the flat carpet, and they did that on purpose, just to have that one difference. But yeah, everything else is exactly the same.
Wow, that's crazy.
Yeah. Yeah.
Wow.
So did George Takei have to interact with Sulu in that scene?
Yes.
Because
Yes.
was he like his dad or anything? Or
I'm trying to remember what it was.
Oh
I
my.
want to say yes. Lots of oh my's happening. I want to say that episode, someone will be like, that's not what happened, because it's been so
Oh yeah, someone will be.
I want to say in that episode there was some away mission, and this other version of, like, it's George Takei obviously,
Right.
and Sulu's there, but he's like he's wearing more like some sort of like native kind of outfit, and like
he's
so
got
it's
like
not like
tan leather and furs on. I remember seeing the picture.
So it's like a different, it's like an alternate universe type of
It's the alternate
deal.
timeline Star Trek.
Yes, exactly. And then in the one where we had Walter Koenig come down, who's Chekhov, in that episode, young Chekhov, like, has some sort of accident with radiation or whatever, and ages very rapidly. And so
poor
yeah,
Walter.
so then I know. Yes, and so Walter's the older version.
He's the radiated version of himself.
I know, poor guy.
That's gotta feel that has to feel very weird. You're like, oh gosh.
So you're gonna do a lot of makeup on me? No.
No,
the
you're
way
fine.
you are. You look like the radiated version of your younger self.
Oh, so sad. Yeah.
God. Oh man, that's horrifying.
They did put makeup on him. They did. They made him look more,
radiated.
Yeah, more radiated.
Not just natural aging.
No. Yeah.
No.
Yeah. Wow. All right. What were you a Star Trek fan other than being on the show, or was it?
I was. Yeah. I grew up watching the original series, so I was yeah, I was like super excited to hang out there.
Yeah, I tried to tell well, different people that are different age that are much younger than me. Every time I have this conversation with them about Star Trek, they always go, "I wasn't even born yet." And I'm like, "I wasn't either."
Yeah.
They were reruns. Hello. Like you think I was born
Hello.
in the 60s? What?
I have no concept. We
Oh,
watched them on VHS that they were recorded on.
yeah.
Yes.
Well, they it up. I don't know anything about where it was all over the country, but I remember coming home from school, and I think it was on right after the news. Star Trek started. Of course, then eventually it was replaced with Benny Hill for some reason. But then they moved it to nighttime, so you had to stay up till you had to bug your parents to stay up till 11
Mhm.
to watch Star Trek,
Yeah.
and I loved it. I loved it.
It's good stuff. And we had some of the original writers were writing the episodes that we did
Oh
too.
wow,
So that yeah, so that was
Wow,
really cool too. Yeah.
that
that
is
is
really cool.
super
Hmm.
neat.
How did so somebody, I guess, or a few people organized this whole thing and found the tracked down the original writers and got them together and all that?
Yeah.
Hmm.
I
Wow.
don't know how all of that worked, but I think it was kind of like it started as such a small thing, and I think the guy who like started it all just kind of like met the right people, and they were interested, and like kept introducing to more people, and it just grew and grew and grew.
We should try to get him on the show. That I could really nerd out.
He's also a an Elvis impersonator.
Should get him on the show.
Yeah.
That is fascinating. Yeah.
Yeah, he's won awards for his
Wow,
Elvis impersonation.
that's fantastic. Do you have his,
Yes.
could you tell him that we're interested in being on the show and that we're,
I haven't talked to him in a long time, but I will. I don't mind asking.
that would be fantastic.
Yeah,
Oh my God, I would love it so much.
that's too funny.
Our first 5 hour episode.
Right.
Oh no.
You just leave and I'm just like, oh, I
I
got
will
this.
be gone.
I'm
Yeah.
done.
Oh, I'd love that so much. What other acting have you done?
um, well, so I've done a whole lot of independent film. We did a couple more together, Jayson, didn't we? We did.
I think so.
Yeah, there was at
I've
least a
done
couple
so many
after that.
independent things.
I know there's so many, and it's like half of them never get finished. So
And
don't.
you don't even know you're on a sh on a set on in a project with somebody because they're not there.
Yes.
Then
Yeah.
and you're like, oh wow, you were in that. So much independent stuff around here. It's crazy.
Yeah.
Probably
Yeah.
everywhere.
I think we have there's a lot in Vermont though. Like
Yeah.
it's nice. Yeah. Um so yeah, I was doing a lot for a while there. And then actually there's one I did actually close to Ticonderoga called Mineville that's been like they're doing screenings again.
Hmm.
Like it's like 14 years old. It's like
Hmm.
14 years old, and they've been doing screenings again recently. So that was kind of funny because I brought my daughter to a screening just a couple months ago that they had, and they just had my role in it is it's set in the 20s and I'm a prostitute in it.
Mhm.
And so I had to
Hmm.
like, I mean,
Yeah, the whole flapper
it's
outfit
fine,
and
but
stuff.
yeah, it was funny. And
What did you have to do an accent?
I didn't have much of an accent. It was I had to just, pretend to do things, and the guy gets mad and beats me up.
Nice. You're
Yeah.
like prepared, like, whoa, whoa.
Whoa. But we had some big names in that movie too. We had actually William Sadler
Hmm,
um
cool.
yeah, and he came to the screening too, so it's funny when kids like they're like, who is this guy?
Right.
I'm like, just be nice.
Uh, did you do
Yeah,
any Edgewood films? You must have been in the Edgewood films.
I don't think so.
Oh, really? That was like,
Edgewood?
the big, the Rutland place with David Giancola.
Oh no.
Oh, you didn't get into
Mm-mm.
any of those? Oh, okay.
No,
We're trying.
I don't think I made it as far as Rutland. when
Yeah.
I was doing, I don't do as much anymore, but back when I
Right.
was before I had a kid, when I was doing it all the time, I didn't go as far as Rutland.
How long have you lived in the Plattsburgh area?
So I've been back now for almost 7 years. But before that, gosh, it's been on and off for a while, I guess. Before that, it was a good like 8, 9 years.
Because one of the most fascinating things about Plattsburgh and the lake and Vermont to me is rental prices. I know
Mm.
people in Vermont that live in Plattsburgh and take the ferry every day to work because over there you could rent a house for $600 a month, and over here a room is like $1,300. Like
I don't know where they're renting a house.
well, maybe
They're not.
I might be 10 years back, but it was always
Yeah.
like this. I was living in Winooski and a friend was doing it, so maybe about
Yeah.
10, 15 years ago. But I remember
Mhm.
that the prices over there were 1/3 of the price of over here for rentals.
That's
And
probably
everybody
true.
would blame it on the fact that the Air Force Base left. And I was like, wasn't that 100 years ago or something? Like, I
That's
don't know how long
hilarious.
ago the Air Force Base left, but like the prices
Yeah.
over there for rentals were like insane. And my band played a show over there, at the Naked Turtle, I believe it's called.
Oh yeah. Hmm.
And the whole town was like, it looked like The Walking Dead. It was just, there were barely any cars, there were no people. And it was
Yeah.
just so bizarre, the difference of here and there. And it was just the lake separating it. I mean, do you have any?
Yeah. Vermont's much nicer.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. For sure.
Yeah.
But like
Vermont's much nicer.
like economically though, from a financial standpoint, it just seemed like that place was like devastated by the loss of the Air Force Base from however long ago that was. It was so long ago,
Yeah.
but
We're still recovering.
yeah, it
I
seems
don't
like it
know.
never really recovered or something. But yeah, it was so strange.
Yeah.
Well, like what's the typical rental cost like there? Like, would you say like a 3 bedroom?
Um, a 3 bedroom, probably around 1,500
Yeah,
or
that's cheap.
yeah, or
Yes.
more. I
Yeah.
That'll
mean,
be like
it might be more.
3,500 here. Like or
Yeah.
20,
It might be a
2,500.
little more. I'm fortunate to like I own my home, so I'm fortunate that I haven't been renting in a while. Um, but
No,
I hear,
that sounds about
yeah,
right. That's what I mean. It was like half or
yeah,
1/3 of the prices over here, and that's why people
mm,
were my friends. They would
yeah,
come across on the ferry to go to work and live in Plattsburgh.
yeah,
I had a few that were doing that.
yeah. I mean,
Crazy.
So
it's not terrible, but Burlington's a lot nicer.
where is Plattsburgh in relation to like where you are? Explain.
It's right across the lake.
So it's right across the lake.
Yeah,
Like, so you have to take a ferry.
yeah. It's like an
Well, you
hour.
could take a bridge if you went around, but yeah, taking the ferry, it's like an hour.
Oh,
Hmm.
interesting.
Yeah,
Yeah, of course in LA, that's like nothing for
that's like
commute.
around the block. Yeah.
But right here, it's a long time.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, that doesn't seem that bad. I mean,
No,
listen
you're
to a
on the lake.
podcast
No.
with yeah, your commute, like
Yeah.
Yeah,
No,
I
I try
almost.
to I go to Burlington like fairly frequently. Like I love Church Street and the
Hmm.
Flynn is there and
Oh
there's
yeah,
just so much more to do in
Burlington's
Burlington.
amazing.
Yeah, Burlington's great.
Yeah, Rena needs to come visit.
Yeah.
I have not been that far north. I do need to go that way.
I'm such an advocate for moving to Vermont. I'm always like, you should come here. You should come here. It's wonderful here because I really feel like I won the birth lottery. Not only was I born in the United States, but I was born in Vermont. I mean, I honestly do
Hmm.
not think that there's a better place to be born on the planet Earth. I really
Vermont's
don't.
really nice. Vermont's really nice. Yeah.
I don't know. That's what it feels like anyway. And people are like, you never left? I'm like, I went to Boston for a year and I went back because I was like
Yeah.
done with that.
That's too funny.
Vermont always pops up in various roundups for things, and they're always good. Like best
Yeah.
whatever, and I'm like, yeah, it does seem like they have really good policies and things there, but I just couldn't get past the cold.
Yeah.
I
It's
that would
cold.
just kill, and that like because I'm pretty sure I have some degree of seasonal affective disorder, which does not bother me in California.
No.
But when I
Mhm.
used to live on the East Coast in Baltimore and DC, I was like pissed every winter, like just raging. And now I'm like, oh, it's sunny outside. Like, so if I feel like if I were to live in Vermont and be there in the winter, I would just be raging all winter, and that's not
Yeah.
helpful.
It does get a little sad in the winter.
I don't know. I stay inside with curtains shut year round, so it's all the
Yeah,
same.
that's what you probably don't notice. It's fine for it's fine for somebody that doesn't like to leave the house
I
or do outdoor activities.
I heard the faintness of a rainstorm outside, and my curtain was shut. And it's rather than going right there and looking out, I picked up my phone and was like, "Is it raining out?" I was like, picked up. I looked at the weather. Oh yeah, look at that! And then a little bolt of
Okay.
lightning went across my screen. I'm like, "Oh, it's thunder and lightning too."
Oh. What, are you a vampire or
I just have no reason to go outside unless I'm taking out the garbage or something, or need to go get
How do
something.
you like get any kind of physical
I
activity?
play
Like,
Beat
how do
Saber every day.
you play what?
Beat Saber.
What is that?
It's on VR. It's very physical.
Oh, I was about to
so
say, I'm like, you're
physical?
ready to enter the VR world already. That was going to be my next.
Oh yeah, yeah, oh
That's what it
yeah, yeah.
sounds like.
I want to be downloaded actually. I would love to be. I would love that so much.
Oh my gosh.
That's coming. It's
Yeah.
coming.
Oh yeah,
Mhm.
definitely for sure. How has AI been affecting your life, Giovanna?
Um, you know, the thing is, I think I also sort of am afraid of AI because I do sort of think it's going to take us over and
You're not the
you
only
know,
one.
like we can't contain it. Like it's going to, I don't know, but I'm not like a freaking out about it, but
I
you
don't
know,
know. I
um,
used to be that way until I heard the people that are in charge of it that left. Some guy left OpenAI, and he said, "Yeah, we're in a lot of trouble," and they fired me
yeah,
because I was leaking information. They're going way too fast.
yeah, no, I think it's going to be a disaster at some point, but I also can't do anything about it. So
Mm.
I'm just along for the ride, you know.
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, obviously we use it all the time. Like I love my smartphone, you know, it does great thing. You know, there's a lot of AI that's super helpful and you know, that's great.
Something tells
I
me
don't
Giovanna has not actually experienced
I
AI.
tried like I've chatted with, you know, I've done chat
Oh, okay,
GPT.
good. All right.
I've done that, you know, but like I don't mess with it like a lot. I really don't. I'm like I'm gonna, you know, keep my distance. I don't know.
We're friends. I call
Like, yeah,
sometimes.
we're, you know, it's there, I'm here. Just I don't want to rely on it, you know?
That's hilarious. Awesome. Well, do you have any other questions, Rena? Because I have my final question that I can't wait to ask Giovanna.
Oh, God.
Yeah, I think we covered everything. This has been a really great conversation.
Oh yeah, it's
Yeah,
it's and please send me links also so I
I
can put
will.
them in the description, and I may put the number right on the screen if there's a number.
Yeah,
I'm assuming there is.
there are numbers,
Um,
yeah.
okay, so I have a question to ask you that I asked pretty much everybody. I don't think there's anybody I've missed so far, but it's completely not about anything we've talked about pretty much. Um, it's hypothetical. Um, okay, so picture yourself where you are,
Mhm.
and through the door, someone comes in and they look exactly like you and they're wearing the same clothes, but they seem a little bit more disheveled and possibly got into some shit pretty much. Um, and she comes over to you and she says, "Come with me. I'm from the future." What do you do?
I go with her.
Okay, that's what I would do.
Yeah.
No hesitation, like just
Nope.
Yeah, Star Trek fan.
Let's go.
She knows what to do.
Yeah.
is it the start? Like, I don't know. I'm like, I don't trust you. You're me. Like, I
No,
don't
but
know.
that's exactly what I would do. I would do something like that though.
Ah,
So I'd be like, I would be like, yes, that is me, because that is what I would do.
Yeah, I must have something really important
Right.
that they need my help.
Yeah, I need my
Ah.
help. Like, I have to go.
Yeah, that's exactly how I feel. I'm like, yes, I would be shocked. Yes, there'd be an issue, but ultimately, yeah, let's go. Just let me wake up
Let-
Luke.
Yeah,
like because
like,
I need to, I
he
gotta
needs
take care of a couple
snacks.
things. He's, oh yeah, I got that
Like,
covered.
yeah, let's go.
Yeah, I can ask questions along the way.
Yeah, we'll catch up on the way for
Yeah,
sure.
but can you imagine not going and they leave? You're to think about that for the rest
No,
of your life.
yeah, not there is no chance I'm not going. Like,
Yeah.
absolutely not.
Rena's just like, phew, I'm glad it didn't go with me.
Well, no, you know what I'm thinking? Like, I wonder if even like if there was like a future version of me, like might not even come back because
I won't
she
go.
might be like, she won't believe me. I'm just not even gonna, it'll take too long to like, because as soon as the two of you said, oh, I know myself, yeah, I'd go. My future self might know my past self and be like, yeah, she's not gonna believe me. Like, I can't enlist her help.
You
Like,
can't count on yourself.
I gotta go it on my own.
That's funny. Yeah.
That is amazing. There's so many different people, and and so many people have answered it so differently. And it's
My
like,
favorite is the people that are like, I'm gonna have sex with them first.
yeah, 2 people have said that, and they were both comedians.
I was gonna say they might be a narcissist. I don't know.
Oh yeah, because that ain't what I'm thinking at all.
No.
In so many ways.
Oh God. Yeah.
My favorite answer to date, though, it wasn't on the show. It was my really good friend when I worked at Costco named Mark, and he didn't know I was going to ask him. So I'm going to try to get the timing right. But I said all that, and I said, "What would you do?" And he said, "I'd ask him for the password." Dead that quickly, he said that. I'm like, "What?" He's like, "Of course, I've set up a
Yeah.
password."
That's brilliant, though.
That's
Like,
smart.
that
He
That is smart.
really smart and very funny, and why I loved him so much because every day was like that.
That's great.
Yeah, but yeah, I'd ask him for the password. Of course I would. Did you have a password? He's like, of course.
You don't?
I do now.
Everything bagel.
No, I can't use that now because I've said it. I have to change my damn password.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Oh God, I really have to put some thought into that. All right, cool. Well, thank you for very much. I was excited to talk to you, and honestly, it's a way for this show has become a way for me to get in touch with my old friends.
Yeah. It's been a long time.
Like, I haven't talked to her in a while. Let's do that. That'll be fun. And then, of course, they're super interesting.
Oh, why? Thank you for having me. I really
Yeah.
appreciate it.
Yeah, for sure. And
been fun.
what would you like to say? Like, plug anything? Like, what's your website?
Yeah, so website for my safety keychains is protectionavenue.com. I'm on Instagram and Facebook and all that stuff
I'll
at
put that in.
Protection Avenue. And stay safe and listen to your friends and your family. And if someone needs help, do what you can to help them, and believe survivors.
Yep. And guys, stop crowding women.
Guys, stop it. Be
Yeah.
like Jayson.
Yeah. Cool. I'll put that all in the description and stuff. And as far as our show, please subscribe and share, especially with an important subject like this. And not the Star Trek part, but that was fun.
I was almost thinking we could break it into 2 bits actually for like people that.
Well, there'll be there'll be segments eventually.
Yeah, you can take
for sure.
So they can get to know you if they don't want to watch the trigger warning stuff.
Right. You're gonna have to explain to me what a trigger warning is before I finish editing, because I'm not sure exactly.
Oh yeah, I'll find you some resources.
I'm like, trigger warning. I mean, like if there's flashing lights, like that kind of a thing, or
like PTSD or like any kind of
the cat just
like if you've had a
knocked out his
traumatic experience. My camera, because Dennis is sleeping on the.
Rena lives in an abusive relationship with a cat, the cat likes to unplug cameras and microphones.
Cats are like that.
He's
I have an abusive husky. He's so bad.
Yeah.
Yes.
All
Yeah,
right.
I was trying not to call attention to it, but like as you were in the middle of some sensitive topics, Dennis is, here's my mic, walking
I know.
over my mic for no reason. Like there is no reason that this cat needs to be doing this.
Yeah, the same thing. I was doing the same thing. I was just like, as I blocked your screen with my hands like this.
So you wouldn't laugh.
Because the
That's so
anticipation was
funny.
killing me. Like, oh no. I don't even know why. It doesn't matter.
Yeah, it doesn't. I'm fine with animals. So I have 2 dogs and a cat. So one of my little dogs is over there. So I'm surprised none of them popped up. So it's totally
Nice.
fine.
Okay, cool. Oh, there he is again. Wait, he likes to play with my fingers.
Oh yeah, he used to play, like he really likes screens, so he used to play with Jayson on the screen, but he's not looking at the screen right
Oh,
now.
that's funny.
We're all going to be living in this virtual world, so we have to learn these little tricks.
It's true.
I'm just kidding. We'll find
Unless the electric grids fail, and then we won't have any of that. Have you considered that, Jayson?
I have. That's why I have a go bag.
All right.
It's not a very good one, but it's something.
Yeah, mine's not very good either, but it's something.
Yeah. All right. Awesome. Well, thanks a lot. And
Thank you.
yeah, we'll go back to talking to interacting with each other on Facebook with our various
Excellent.
posts.
Well, thank you so much. And Rena, it was nice to meet you.
Yes, you too. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you.